Доброго вечора, ми з України. Доброго вечора, ми з України.
Good evening. We are from Ukraine, Lviv. There, see Західний. Let's talk about the situation on the ground, how our partners support us, and what is going on in Russia. And traditionally, I would like to remind us the losses of occupiers on the Ukrainian land since the 24th of February to the 23rd of March. So the information is under constant renewal because it's quite difficult to calculate all the killed occupiers. So we have more than 15,000 personnel, more than 517 tanks, 1,570 armored personnel vehicles, 67 artillery systems, 47 anti-aircraft, 101 helicopters, 42 UAV operational, more than 1,000 vehicles, and 4 boats and 15 pieces of special equipment. So these are the losses of Russia. You also can watch them on the special resource where you can look for the information in percentage and an amount of personnel to be gathered on the borders of Ukraine. And this information also relates to the statistics, a number of tanks. So the world is now under discussion in terms of is there any sense to use tanks because they have very little efficiency where they are held by Russian. So West Air Defense System reports that Chernobyivka is the second piece where in this direction the enemy loses its air forces. So this morning 2 pieces of planes were downed. Good news also for the armed forces of Ukraine. The cabinet of ministers allocated 10 billion hryvnias for development program to repair buying of military hardware, to acquire new equipment for our military. So let's wait when we will be able to use it to kill our enemy. Also, sabotages were detained. It was a couple. So on their mobile phones, there were videos testifying their relations to operation in Donetsk region, where the most harsh hostilities are ongoing and where we have the greatest advancements of the enemies. And yesterday, we still are waiting for the information that Putin has died. So, Gerasimov is also expect someone to poison Mr. Putin. Russian oligarchs are so disappointed with the situation undergoing. They are trying to influence Mr. Putin and his employees. Putin does not believe his surrounding employees, so oligarchs are ready to pay for him to be killed. And traditionally, we are talking about news from international front. President Zelensky addresses today to two peoples. He addressed to Japan people. He urged to unite efforts and to prevent the war started by the Russian Federation and to stop it. And this was for the first time in the history. He told the Japanese people that we might have various disasters, including environmental one. So we will watch his pieces of address, and the second one was delivered to the French people. Once again, he underscored those painful bulletin points in terms of Russians to rape Ukrainian women and to kill Ukrainian children. He also urged French people and leaders to seek peace for Ukraine. As for other news from abroad, Jens Stoltenberg, a General Secretary of NATO, he stated that NATO will provide certain and relevant chemical protection equipment. Yesterday, this issue will be discussed on the extraordinary session in Brussels. He once again said that this war between Russia and Ukraine not to be leaked from borders of Ukraine. So Biden is also so concerned to have this conflict only within the borders of Ukraine. But we keep saying that we have a world conflict, but they are trying to hush up this information. So that's why actually Biden is going to the extraordinary meeting of NATO, and Mr. Zelensky also will be present there in a video mode. Now they are going to define so which of the mode will be used, hybrid or not, because it's not an option to participate all day long. They're offline, so it's not an option. So once again, Russians who support the Ukrainian war are increasing numbers. So now we have 87%. So we have an increase. And those who are going to protest, this number amounts to 10%. So they are ready to go out the streets and to show that they disagree with their dictatorship in the country. Now we have a short piece from Zelensky's address to Japanese people, and then we will discuss with our guests. So let's watch then Mr. Zelensky address to Japanese, and let's talk about cultural diplomacy, which is now works on all the fronts. So let's wait.
Пані та панове, сьогодні саме Україна,
Ladies and gentlemen, today Ukraine and our anti-military coalition can provide guarantees that the world safety will not be broken and ruined. So we are those stones to protect the biodiversity in the country, to protect borders, to have confidence that our children, our grandchildren will have peace. You can see now that international institutions failed to work, even the United Nations and the Council of Europe. What can they do? They require reforming and some injections of trustfulness and truthfulness, just not to influence but to discuss. Due to the war, the world is destabilized, and on the edge of various possible disaster. Nobody knows what we should avoid for turbulent periods on various markets, dependent on raw materials and trade markets. So these challenges are unprecedented. And most importantly, it's important to convince the dictator that once they start the war, the consequence will be devastating to stop them, to start the war. So those responsible countries are united now to protect peace. I am grateful for your support in this historical moment, for a real support of Ukraine. You were among those first countries who started to press Russia, who supported sanctions against it, and I urge you to continue to do this. I urge you to unite your efforts and the efforts of your partners to find those forces to stop the Russian, to stop their waves of their invasion. We need embargo for trading with Russia. We need to seize companies from the Russian market, to stop money being floated there, to help our country to maximum extent, to our defenders who stop the Russian forces. We need it here and now to think about how we can rebuild Ukraine, rebuild those devastated and abandoned cities. So people should return there where they were born, where they felt themselves in the motherland. I do hope that you feel this necessity to be returned to your land. We need to work on the new security guarantees, to act preventively and strongly every time when threat is on the horizon. Can we do on the relevant and existed international basis? No, we should invent new tools effective against any threats. The leadership of Japan is of great value in their creation, and I propose you to do that, that the world will be confident in the next day again, and that the world will be stable for us, for next generation. So it was addressed by the President Zelensky, and we return to our studio. We have Taras Join, movie director, a member of movie studio in Kyiv. So glory to Ukraine, glory to our heroes. So we do hope to have movies in Japanese language. So now it's not a high time to create movies or other arts. So what's the movie industry is engaged in now? So we are working for victory. You know that Lviv now has hosted a big company, a true community. So these are directors and other representatives of movie sphere. So we try to help with various possible ways to transfer military equipment, for example. So everyone is present here, and now we think about creation and filming our own manifests. Maybe next time we will talk about that. Are you going to engage actors in this movie? Yes, indeed, to have a full-fledged staff. Everyone is ready. Everyone want to implement this interesting idea to have. And after all, we have so many various tasks and interesting things we need to find, to do. And the majority of us are representative of the European Movie Academy. They also supported us. So, is this academy have? Does this academy have Russian representatives? Yes, we are now working on expelling these representatives from them. So, Movie Academy understands everything perfectly. So we have withdrawn all the movies, all the Russian movies, from to be nominated from every context, and lots of people are working on that. So no reason to watch Russian movies. So let's Russian to watch their movies on their cinemas, because now they are restricted. Various movies now they have on the Chinese or some other movies. So last time we communicated about the movie, about the war, so about a hero who didn't return from war. So then we talk about other people, representative of culture. And now we are worried that this topic of war will be a primarily topic for all arts. So we will have only tough topics, and this war topic will be influential during the next years. Of course, we will have this reflection because lots of filmmakers now find themselves in Bucha, in these tough cities. So all this informational and emotional workflow. We also have people killed during these hostilities, and currently and before the war broke out, I completed a movie about the value of self-confidence. And so we were filming on special material to be completed, and I'm trying now to polish my new movie, The Glass House. And for me it's important not to be manipulative on the topic, so I don't want to speculate on some other modern things. So I'm not really sure that everyone will want to film on this topic. Now people cannot work creatively because while you are engaged in other military activities, it's all that tough. It's so difficult to concentrate, to create all this materials, and as for me, I cannot concentrate to sit and to do the remaining things on movie. But this movie was filmed on the other topic. Yes, indeed, and I'm going to complete it, and we are already on a Cannes movie festival as a nominates, and of course it is up to every people choice to record the war or not to bypass it. For example, to have the topic about who we are, where are we going, what are our roots. So, and once again, in other movies, which are mini TV episodes, they were filmed about what are our roots, who are our descendants, and etc. So, as for me, I would have developed this topic first and foremost, because I'm now trying to find various interesting pieces to understand how and why we are as we are, and how we can distinguish ourselves from Russians. And to have this conclusion that we don't have nothing in common. So, and I would like to touch to these topics, to talk about people. The whole world is watching us. We have already shown our traits of character, very strong ones, and we need to film that. So every day we have this information. We need to film that. We need to film this thing. So as for you, so what would you have filmed about any episodes about war? So you cannot film about something. You need to find and look for conflict, for people, for actors. It's all that obvious, the war and other things, but many people are now suffering through various traumas, various findings, etc. So I would not take any short episodes, but it is not a movie. So this is my attitude to that as a journalist. So for me, a movie is something else about something else. But I go into a movie about something on real events. You know, it might be a part based on the real events, but with a main hero, a main topic. What is this movie about? And all these real events, this would be only a part. And it's not that easy to find this main theme. So it's so that important to understand why and how all this going. In terms of the future, I always have these questions about the future. Netflix has acquired the first movie, so we're not going to discuss movies, but in a nutshell, Netflix has acquired Korean TV episodes, understandable by only Koreans. So I go to expect any such incidents in terms of Ukrainian materials, allowing to have more investments. I do think so. An hour ago, I was looking for a studio for recording. So Postmodern requested me to find record studios to finish our movies, to dub other things. So to let other people to watch them both in Ukrainian and in other languages. So we don't stop once the war ended. We will have lots of requests, and the industry is ready to operate, and we also have lots of professional people who can do good things, who can create good movie. Also, the issue of fundraising will present themselves, and once we cut our expenditures for culture, so what then we are fighting for? So culture is our also a front, and we need to work on it, continue, and since what I'm looking, I'm watching, I'm witnessing, everyone is ready. Everyone is ready to be engaged to maximum possible extent to prove what we are capable of. Yesterday, we met with your colleague, and in terms of Netflix, we do understand that the center of movie industry is not in Lviv, but in Kyiv. So, and we are talking about the tons of equipment. So, how can we deliver to transfer that? So, and if we might lack this equipment, what we're going to do? So, the majority of equipment have been transformed. I also participated in it, and so the majority of the heavy equipment were delivered. And now here in Lviv, as a center, has this work to be resumed. We cannot stop the production of moving. Every day we have these contracts to be fulfilled, to be implemented, and this responsibility, and we have all these tasks we are working for. All these days I've been working on the organization of work to continue it, to maybe to amend it, to work on it, maybe to be engaged in parallel processes in terms of what is going on now. So we cannot forget about movies we've been working for several years, to forget about them, because once again we need to reach new markets. We are so needed people there, people waiting for us there, and once we are present, people will start to talk to us, and that will present a victory. And through this manner we allow the world to hear from us, that they can see our eyes, our traits of character. So not only armed forces, but also our cultural space, which is inexplicably important. So, and this is what we are doing all the time, and this is what is to be reinforced. So, no any Russian movies. We need to clearly understand who we are and what we are doing. So, we have this movie, Siberian Barber. So what movies can we show people and to have the association with Ukraine? For that we have movie academies and others. So I think that we have lots of things to discuss. For example, about the Ukrainian women's, their traits of character.
Це стальна може бути жінка, та наскільки це переможець і як вона може йти далі. І хоч воно не пересікається ніяк з війною, але воно говорить про те, які ми. А війна само собою, якщо на це накласти війну, то зрозуміло, чому ми так себе ведемо. Ось. Якось ну, насправді багато є фільмів, є там «Погані дороги», та є зараз сходу. Тобто є ряд фільмів, які безпосередньо доступні платформи.
Movies are currently available. Lots of were just added to the platform. Мої думки тихі, My Thoughts Are Silent, so they're currently available as a home theater. And I know that lots of movies are being broadcasted around in Europe. We just signed another deal, and all of the ticket prices are donated for the armed forces of Ukraine. This way, a kind of a sea is built out of the drops and droplets. and they can understand our mentality, us as a nation, our behavior, and that's a very interesting initiative. And Czechia, Poland, Slovenia, I think, offered to sign a deal, and I was happy to do that. I thought I'm just in favor. If I could go, I would go together as well. And I have another question. Apart from the movies, you also recorded and created movie clips, right? But we can see lots of performers now being a part of this process. Did you receive any help requests, or people just take the real recordings? Well, how do I say, the further, the less music videos I record and I create. By the way, a couple of these, and just as an announcement, we have an idea right now. There was an interesting music recorded by kids, and I'm currently collecting my peers, colleagues from the industry. I won't announce the idea right now, but people like it. I think we will implement it soon enough, and I think it will be such a, well, on the one hand, I don't want to speculate because I understand that that's a great grief, but I do not want us to be perceived as a victim. I want to show that we're strong, that we have strong heart and mentality, and I'm ready to be involved into things like that. So hopefully the premiere of this, well, this is the second time that you joined us in this studio, and hopefully that Taras Dronkin, a script writer and a member of European Movie Academy Association, all the best to you. We hope that the victory is soon enough, and we'll be able to announce the premiere for everything that you wanted to, and hopefully you'll be managed to finish the movie, and I really hope to go to the movies theater soon. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Some other news from the cultural front line, and we already mentioned with Taras that people keep creating music and music recordings. Antitila band addressed Ed Sheeran during his charity performance in Great Britain to record their performance from Kyiv. And we have this announcement. We learned that Ed Sheeran plans a charity performance to support Ukrainians in Ukraine on March 28th, and we immediately asked our commander to record a video, and we want to ask Ed Sheeran to create, well, a joint broadcast.
Hello, Ed. Greetings from Kyiv.
In order to show to the whole of Europe symbolically that we're still fighting, our heart is strong, our will is strong, and we are convinced of our victory.
You will play in Birmingham. We are not afraid to play under the bombs. Through music, we want to show the world that Ukraine is strong and unconquered. We will fight and sing for victory in front of the whole world that support us.
We hope to get his answer, and we hope to create a very powerful piece of news for the whole of Europe in Ukraine. So while Taras Topola, the leader of Antitila band, addresses Ed Sheeran, it was a very nice suggestion. Should Birmingham in Great Britain see the real Kyiv right now, the real broadcast from the heart of the Ukrainian capital, to have a joint performance? I think Ed Sheeran should agree. Yes, and it's very important for us because once again we raise the question of Ukraine in the informational sphere of Great Britain because now they have culture and celebrities in their newspapers inside of Ukraine, and Ed Sheeran's fans are great, and he has a great number of people watching him. So while our celebrities and singers are looking for ways to communicate with the world community and support the art forces of Ukraine, the common citizens support as they can. We have a video from Kharkiv, from the underground, kids and adults singing the anthem of Ukraine. Coming back to the studio of the Перший Західний channel and now the front line in Ukraine. That's very important one, informational one. I'll start with Twitter. Epiphany mentioned that our Secret Synod calls upon the spiritual leaders, monasteries and religious communities to join the Orthodox Church of Ukraine and split connections with the Orthodox Church of Moscow. And now we have an expert in that. So glory to Ukraine, glory to its heroes. There are lots of news about priests and recognition of Kirill, the patriarch of the Orthodox Church belonging to Moscow Patriarchy. When will we have the decision? Well, that's a question to the religious community identifying itself with Moscow after the Security Council of Ukraine that limited the activity of some of the political parties. Probably the religious community is also next on the line to adopt some important decisions like that. They are currently in a very difficult situation because adopting or not adopting the actually self-identification and the status in the global orthodoxy, and they used to play a political role and function. And them being an opponent to the Tomos and to the Ukrainian connection, they don't have a lot of choice. So the question is whether they will keep being political structures and will not accept the the autocephality, but will stay the political project. Well, we have some certain communities already adopting the autocephality and joining the Ukrainian leadership. Well, there are lots of different announcements. A lot of spiritual leaders and church leaders in Ukraine sometimes use lots of different fancy words, but mentioning or not mentioning the Patriarch Kirill is not that important. Of course, in their sermons, if this church haven't supported the Russian political strategy, it would be a different story. But when we read the Western media and when they give interviews to the Western journalists, they focus on different contexts. They say that they are forced in order to protect their believers from some kind of persecutions. So there are some contexts and some public opinions. So why isn't this transition to the Ukrainian leadership a mass transition? Because there is some pressure from above. If you allow me, there is one case I'd like to provide as an example. About 4 years ago in spring, we had preparing seminars before the Thomas was granted to the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, and the rhetorics of the Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate they were speaking very interesting things. They said that this autocephality would be a sign of future bloodshed. And now we understand that that actually was a kind of announcement from their side. So for the Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate, maybe it's too late, but how important it is even right now for them to self-identify and to make this decision whether they belong to the religious community or to the political community. So you say that apart from talking about nationalists who captured power, they speak about religious persecution to the Western media. Yes, this is what they say, and they say that this is the reason why they can't join and accept the decision of the patriarchy. So these kind of rhetorics, that's a very typical announcement like that. And for the documents that they publish are very problematic, and they complicate the things because what are the factors? There are some political relations, but of course some financial and economic relations, because we're talking about the hierarchy, about the status of priests, and we're also talking about the tradition, because Russian model of leading the church, when church is a state institution, makes it so that the religious region do not need to make any decision. It's everything is identified by the political model. That's why lots of people who think that maybe this will change becomes dangerous already as a threat. Is it possible to create this autocephality if we become independent, like we do not join the Orthodox Church of Ukrainian Patriarchate, but we become independent? Probably we could expect anything from this political structure. What's the crux? We are currently talking about ecclesiastical composition, and notice that's in conflict with the world's Orthodoxy, because Patriarch Kirill lost connections and actually torn down his connections with the world Orthodox Church. And it means that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate also throwing down all the connections with the World Orthodox Church. My question is, Russia wages war against Ukraine, but still we have active operations of church that is a part of Moscow Patriarchate. Can we just forbid its activity? I think that during the martial law and in the situation that we currently have, the Council on the Security and Defense of Ukraine needs to consider these questions, because it's not the first or even the first dozen of years when this institution is a part of a political invasion. They kind of a part of the propaganda machine for Russians, and the church representatives work helping to adjust the artillery fire for the Russian army. And you remember when they moved combatants in their vehicles instead of the sacred objects, and you can see the support that this institution provides to the imperialistic thoughts and ideas. That's why it's a part of a political question. Currently, we are in the middle of war, and the situation is difficult, so all of the historical relics should be returned to the state, and all of the institutions whose position is associated with the invading and fascist sect of Gundayam need to stop their activity in Ukraine because they are homicidal. How can we adopt such a decision? That's treason, extremism, yes, terrorism. So as far as I understand, you support the announcement of separate activists that Kyiv-Pechersk should be taken from the Russian management, because there could be saboteurs there. Of course, no doubt, the announcements in public position of this institution quoting Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, even under the conditions of such a bloodshed, and this insane man has already turned into a Führer spouting fascist ideology. There could be no doubts that the only option for keeping national and spiritual sphere and to keep Ukrainian Orthodoxy as a part of the world tradition. How do you, and what do you think about the decision that happened in Horodok at the beginning of March, when the mayor actually forbade the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate? That was their decision of their own community, and they have right to make decisions like that. Maybe the very first decision like that could bring some concerns, but currently it's obviously no concerns about that, because if an institution do not react to Ukrainian deaths but are afraid of the invaders' death, I think they have no moral standing in the society right now, because once again, we're not speaking about the mystical nature of church that the Moscow Patriarchate is not related to. It's only the institutional existence of the Russian church, and I think that such decisions should be passed. Of course, we should have some legislative grounds, but we're in the middle of war, and it encourages us, and it shows that alongside with the political parties should be joined by this totalitarian sect as well. So how does this look like? Well, the position, how does it look like? Let's wait until the war ends and then we'll join the winner. This is their position? Well, more or less. I've read in the Western media, the publications of Valery Pakuchev, who talks about the Orthodox Church, Ukrainian Orthodox Church, as a nationalistic institution, and he says that they're mentioning and praying for the Russian Patriarch is a kind of needs, and their opinions were opposed. Well, I do, there was a very obvious rebuke that the majority of people are ready to sign the document and to split, and that's a very important question that every citizen of Ukraine, not only the state, needs to answer. Quoting Petro Chernik, in this issue, please do not be illusioned, not to be disillusioned. I think about 60 communities that we have in Ukraine belonging to the Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate, and are these numbers correct? Do we have any numbers or stats to show? Well, they show that the number of the churches and church communities, yes, we don't have the exact numbers, because if you register that one thing, but the actual number of believers who attend the church is a different number. There are lots of very traditional elements in our Orthodoxy, and in many cases we lack a kind of dynamic reaction and perception, so the politicians manipulate. And when I say politicians, I not only mean the politicians in the mundane meaning of the world, but also politicians who are part of a church. So decision making when you need to do something because you're obliged to, and actual decision making, it means that they're just reproducing the rituals, but it's not a creative, not adequate, and not politically mature community. And today, it's not just immaturity, it's aggression and actually support for war and tyranny, yes. I have a question about the library that you relate to that because I love this library, and my first dates with my wife were, well, great. We used to have dates in the libraries up until recent times. Today we're working in Adrahmanova 5th Street, and the other services are provided remotely. We keep to the security protocols, and we believe that we will win soon, and we will see offline, and we'll have great presentations inside the library. Everything will be Ukraine, everything will be library. Glory to Ukraine and its heroes. Book the place in the library for your dates. Yeah, so we have the favorite places there. I know all of the places. Thanks for joining. I know that you were helping with the humanitarian aid, stalking and everything, and you do not admit to that. Well, that's modesty. We have another story about one of the monasteries and them joining the Orthodox Church of Ukraine.
У Львівському чоловічому монастирі про бажання приєднатись до Української православної церкви повідомили напередодні 20 березня на одному з богослужінь.
Monastery announced their willingness to join the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Kiev Patriarchy. During one of the sermons, their initiative was supported by the people, but they still need to work on the documents. I know the feedback and reaction of the world patriarch, and waiting makes us collaborators and Russia agents. And I want us to stay Orthodox Christians who love their country.
повертаємося в студію. Я сказав,
Coming back to our broadcast, I have a question. We were discussing the initiative of Olena Zelenska about the music that should be transmitted in Europe. Now about the movies. What Ukrainian movies would you broadcast to Europe, to Germany, for them to understand that Ukraine is not Russia first of all? And I might make errors in titles because I don't remember them exactly. The first one is Dikke Pole, the Wild Steppe. Taras Dronia's movie is зав'язаними очима with tied up eyes. We didn't have lots of presentation and it wasn't broadcasted for a long time, but I recommend this one as well. Maybe something more entertaining. Don't look at me like that. Кіборги, Cyberverse, I do not recommend. I really love comedies like Пропала грамота, The Order Lost. So I quote the jokes from that movie a lot. Тіні забутих предків, the new version or the old one, the Forgotten Ancestor Shadow, based on a well-known Ukrainian book, and Гуцулка Ксеня. The musical, well, I like it. I think that this interesting, well, showing something more entertaining first before the tragic things. Okay, let's start with some comedies and end with tragedies. Now we have another guest who joined us here, but before we move to that discussion, today in Russia they started saying that as if presumably Ukraine attacked them. That's the first ever announcement like that, and it's been a month of war. Belgorod region's governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said that from Ukraine's territory they launched a rocket that exploded on their territory, and I quote, he says that an ordinary situation happened. There was an attack shooting into our direction, but what I need to say that Belgorod region borders other Ukrainian regions, the ones that we can't in this situation treat uniformly. I don't think there were any shootings, and if there were, I'm sure these weren't Ukrainians. The very first data shows the trajectory that comes from the territory currently managed and belonging to the terrorists. And of course, once I have a look, I will find the information on what was fired and when. It's not the first ever provocation from Russia, but that's the first ever when they say, have a look at how cruelly they're shooting us. We also have data from the reconnaissance that Russians are considering the possibility of exploding one of their chemical factories to so-called motivate Russians for drafting and continuing war in Ukraine. So this way they are trying to prepare the so-called grounds and explanations for their future actions. More than 2,000 of displaced people came to our region. Previously, we communicated with the city administration representatives, and a center for legislative aid and for employment help has been launched. Within the first 3 days, they already had 400 requests, and some people already found employment. We have here Lechresny, the head of the Lviv City Employment Center. Glory to Ukraine and its heroes. Has anything changed from yesterday? Andriy Mosklenko said that one person has been hired, that's for sure. Do you have any additional data how you helped the displaced persons? Our data, well, it's very difficult to get any exact data because we don't only work for that center. We have only 2 employees there. The majority of the services are provided via our center of employment. From the displaced people, we had already 300 already requested officially our services to register as unemployed, to either find employment or to receive the unemployment financial support, and about 500 to 700 calls were received by phone, starting from the very first days of war, when the strategic defense factories addressed me and institutions, saying that we immediately need this and that kind of experts. We created an announcement sharing that we need urgently this and that kind of specialists, and within the first couple of days we received enough number of candidates, people from the East who came here with the practical skills, so we managed to fill in the vacancies pretty quickly. So we keep this process when we work with people who give us calls, who came to register as unemployed, and about half of those who go to us are displaced people. And we also work in the center that's we launched jointly with the city administration. There are 452,000 and even more. These are the CVs that are currently available across the whole Ukraine, but in Lviv region, well, I can only speak about Lviv as the city itself. There are 3,500 people who are officially registered as unemployed, but every month we have that's fluctuating. 500 people join, or are the new applications, and we fill in about 500 applications monthly. And before the war, we had 1,800, but when we start giving calls to the employers, double checking whether it's still topical, say about 1,800 are still active. The banks fill in the vacancies by moving the employees from the East, but we have some new institutions and some new vacancies, so that's how. What's the average salary? I can see about 12,000 revenues. Yes, that's about the average, more or less. We can also see a situation like that it seems that salary for some positions is decreasing, so probably businesses do not have enough income and they need to decrease salaries. If they offered 20-25,000 hryvnias in the past, now they offer less. I was commuting by tram and saw that in Lviv they're looking for operators for parking lots. Is that true? Yes. And do the people from the East come? Well, probably people do not understand what that is. They don't request that kind of job, but we offer them. It's not somebody who parks a car. It's not a wallet. So that's an inspector. So they need legal education. What's the salary? 12,000. 8 hours per day? I don't know. So for those people who come from the East region will feel less moral burden over finding people in Lviv because they have no relatives here. That's why probably it's easier for them. They can find not only people from Lviv region because we have lots of cars parked incorrectly from all other regions. Now about the bank sphere in pharma. They can also bring the employees from the East here and fill in their vacancies like that. Well, in pharma, for example, I thought that they are closing down their networks, but Podorozhnik, pharmacy network, I wouldn't say so. That was the information from Podorozhnik that I actually had about them closing down the separate building. Well, probably they found some other additional solutions. They were asking us for experts and for candidates, so they do have some vacancies. And textile industry, who used to work on manufacturing dresses and civilian clothes, now are repurposing the activity for the military actions, and the demand for that kind of expert is growing. E-commerce requires the consultants, and the hotel industry. All of these things are still required. What about top managers? Yes, we do have vacancies like that as well, but the percentage is decreasing. Well, before the war, 70% of vacancies were professional, technical kind of education, and now it's only about, and the rest was top managers. Now only about 20% are the top managers, because financial and bank sphere suffers more. Within the context of this discussion, I'd like to remind that today the President signed a law on liberalization of trade relations for facilitating involving hiring process. Let's not talk about the law draft, but lots of people lost their work, and we traditionally perceive the employment center as something for people who lost work only, but could people who are officially registered, officially still, haven't been fired, do they come here? Well, yes, we can work with these categories of people the same, and the remaining category, these are people who are registered as entrepreneurs, who haven't been actually fired yet or let go, and that's why we accept all of the different cases. They give us a call, we spend some 5 minutes for understanding the situation, and then we direct them to the responsible institutions. We were also talking a lot about the financial aid for unemployed, whether it happens as planned. What about those people in Lviv who were on the registry? Do they keep receiving the money? Do you have enough budgets? Well, we do not store the money, but we're being financed from the state budget. So we send the data to the capital, and they finance this unemployment aid. So basically, there is no deficiency here. Apart from that, since you mentioned the new law draft, for people not to search for liberalization, a law draft, because it's called a law on normalization of the employment relationships, but they also have an article about providing and employer compensation for remuneration of the officially displaced staff. So people who were officially displaced from the eastern regions and those who come here and will be employed here, the employers will receive 6,500 hryvnias of compensation for this remuneration as salaries. So I announced all of the employers who'd like to hire more people within this category to send applications here. But it can only be done via your registration. If they hired them before, it doesn't work. It does, but you still need to come and register. We previously discussed that the compensation could be received, but you need to go to the special registry and register there. In your case, this employment center. Then you need to register there, and then only they will receive 6,500 hryvnias of this remuneration. Not just one-time remuneration for 2 months. So for the martial law in the next month, but currently no more than 2 months. So we understand that should the martial law be continued this period, maybe this program will be continued as well. My another question, there was a possibility like that previously, that if somebody wants to start their own business, they will be supported. Is this still viable for people who were displaced, came here, and like to open their own business? Could you support them financially? Well, this option is still provided, but only within the allocated budget, and currently we do not have allocated budget for that. Maybe in a day or two, as soon as we get allocated budget, we announce that to the population and then could implement that. And to conclude, today the Sociological Agency of Rating announced the survey results. According to their data, among the Ukrainians who were employed before the war, about 53% do not work any longer, 22% work as usual, 21% work either partially or remotely, and only 2% found a new employment place. We're still in the transition period, probably. It's probably across the whole of Ukraine. You should understand that the average situation or average data is not a reliable data. Of course, in Chernihiv or Kharkiv, way more people are unemployed than in Lviv, especially the numbers about the newly hired people, because we have the highest concentration and the highest number of displaced people here. But I think that we will fill in the vacancies here soon enough, because currently who sends applications here? Those who just came and want to spend some time without work, just to relax and find come again, but sooner or later the financial resources that they brought with themselves will run out, and I don't want to speak about something unpleasant, but the sooner you look for employment, the more chances you have to get employed. So I think it's also a positive thing that we have lots of enterprises relocating into the region, so hopefully we'll have more vacancies to fill in, and we'll have enough vacancies, the same for the residential and renting fund. We'll move on later to that because we have a video from the military headquarters about the operative situation in the front line. Thank you. That was Oleg Ryasny, the head of the Lviv Regional Employment Center. We will keep tracking and monitoring your vacancies. Share all your new information with us. This is the 28th day of heroic opposition of the Ukrainian people to the Russian aggression and war. We keep defeating them at different directions. The Russian army keeps trying to capture certain territories to strengthen their position during the negotiations and violating the norms of international humanitarian law. They keep shelling with cruise missiles and air raids to destroy civilian infrastructure and agricultural equipment that threatens the beginning of the field works in Volyn, Sievershchina, Taury, and southern regions. In Slobozhansk, the invaders demonstrate the so-called humanitarian mission of the Russian Federation, organized this so-called humanitarian aid to the local citizens, requiring that citizens show them the passport of Ukraine and taking note of their data. The enemies, because of their problems with the logistics, are trying to take away the fuel from agricultural farms and from the local citizens in certain areas. We keep defending in the air and on the ground, gradually liberating the land from the Ukrainian invaders. We believe in the armed forces of Ukraine. Keep calm and glory to Ukraine. Glory to its heroes. Continuing with another piece of news, we have a great photo from Chernihiv region. This is this is everything that was left from the Russian tank that invaded Ukrainian country, and we do everything. Our fighters do everything for the Russian invaders to go away the sooner the better, and the insurgents keep tormenting the Russian forces. You can see that some military hardware and weapons were captured. The operational command of the North announces that in the borderline regions of Chernihiv region, the invaders spread propaganda saying that Russia does not wage war on Ukraine, saying that they are brethren, no nationalism. Of course, it's propaganda, not true, but they are trying to convert local community into their favor because they understand that in order to break Ukrainian defense, you need to break all of the Ukrainians. There is a photo from Ukrainian army forces, how they captured Krasukha 4. This is a new system of jamming the radio connection, 300 kilometers of signal transmission in length. If this is true, then that's a very valuable capture because we can jam their signals as well and better build our defense line against equipment like that. Ukraine received 50 cars to evacuate injured report. I mean 50 emergency cars. This is the Ministry of the Healthcare of Ukraine announced. They didn't indicate who provided the cars. They just said that the partners provided the cars. They will be sent to the doctors to evacuate citizens from the places where active fights are happening, military actions. The European Commission suggests to the Council of EU and Euro Parliament to allocate additional 3,400 million of euros to allocate the money to accept refugees because of immediate crisis caused by the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. EU is looking for ways to support the countries that accept refugees, especially Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Austria, Czechia, and Estonia. The situation on the western border, the data for the previous day, the March 22nd, on our western border with EU and Moldova, 63,000 of people crossed the border and 12,000 of cars. This data shows that the number of refugees stabilized and is about a normalized 65,000 of people per a day, and that's across all of the borders, not only in the region. 45,000 people left the country last yesterday, and as a reminder, to go to EU, you need to go not only to Poland, but you could go via Moldova, Hungary, and so on and so forth. More than 80,000 of people came to Ukraine. More than 15,000 Ukrainians are Ukrainian, so the majority are men planning to defend their country, and the guards express their gratitude for coming back and joining the defenders. And our defenders keep identifying Russia's agents and supporters. They identify a woman who's supported in Slovyansk and sent intelligentsia and information to the Russian army. She was detained and found 2 cell phones, 2 laptops, and flash sticks. She supported the Russia openly, and as a work of utilities, she knew everything that happened in the city. The 1st of March, when with the events of the Kharkiv state administration happened, when it was bombed, and our representatives announced that 7 people were killed. Then they updated the data to 10. Now the emergency services announced 24 killed who were recovered from the rubble, but probably this is not the final data, because they say that they keep working on the rubble. It was a very large building, and in order to get to all the places, in order to unblock everything, we need time. So the number of 7 killed grew to 24. Probably this number will still grow. Meanwhile, in Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor, announced that Russian invaders gunned down the parking lot in the Podil region of Kyiv, and 1 person killed, 2 injured. Continuing with the Kyiv news, police renews their work in Irpin, and on the territory of this city that suffered a lot are ready to continue their work. They start with cleaning up the streets from saboteurs, but the main task right now is to keep and help with evacuating of civilians who still are staying there. Now, news from Syria. They from March 22nd, they had a meeting between the head of the 8th team, Colonel Nassim Abu Ira, the general, and the general of the armed forces of Russia. The general from Russia requested to receive a list of people ready to join the armed forces of Russia in the so-called special operation, but they didn't receive this list up till now. They just promised to go back. So all of the promises to provide combatants for the Russian army haven't been implemented. So once again, these were no mercenaries in the videos that we previously saw, but the personal army of the Tehran Bashar Assad. That's why, of course, it's not logical to send your own personal army to Russia, to wage war in Russia and stay unprotected back in Syria. So all of the numbers announced by Russia of 15 or 20,000 combatants were unrealistic from the beginning. Probably, or maybe they found about 1,000, but they were moving them to Russia and then back to Syria. We haven't seen any combatants or mercenaries like that. So maybe the information that they sign up to join the Russian army in order to surrender here and to ask for political protection, maybe this piece of gossip is right. Nabiullina, who spent about 24 years working for Putin, and Bloomberg says that March the 1st, after Russia invaded Ukraine, who's the head of the National Bank of Russia, she requested to leave her post, but what did Putin do? He assigned her for the next 5 years. Probably she understood that working as the head of bank system in the sanctions conditions, so she wanted to be dismissed, but was still assigned for the next period. And the Bloomberg informants said that from Putin's side, he could consider that as a personal traitor, and that's why she needs to spend another 5 years as a slave to Vladimir Putin, and the conditions on the whole world is trying to stifle the Russian economy. We have an address of Volodymyr Zelensky to the French people. In 2019, when I became the president, we already have a format for the negotiations with the Russian Federation. It was the Norman format that was supposed to finish the war on the east of Ukraine. That's actually has been waged for 8 years already. There were 8 countries representative there, but the whole world and all of the positions and opinions of the whole world were represented in this format. Some people wanted to just waste time, but it seemed as if the whole world was at the table of the negotiation, at that peace table. And when the negotiations brought some results, when we managed to liberate some people, some prisoners of war, when we managed to approve some decision in December of 2019, that was some hope that talking to Russia could help, that the management of administration of Russia could be convinced with words, that Russia could vote for peace. But then February 24th happened that dismissed all of the efforts and dismissed dialogue and European experience of European-Russia relations. All of this was shelled and bombed by the Russian army, by the Russian artillery and fired at and burned by the Russians' cruise missiles. We didn't find any truth in the official rooms or cabinets. That's why we need to fight for truth. What do we have left? Our values, our unity, and our persistence to keep protecting our joint, united liberty and freedom, the one that unites Madrid, Rome, Brussels, Bratislava, and all other cities of Europe. No fresh breath of the wind will help. We need to work together, to press and pressurize together, to encourage Russia to look for peace together. Dear ladies and gentlemen, representatives and French citizens, French people, on the 24th of February, the whole of Ukrainian population was unified. We don't have leftist or rightist. Politicians had to stop their political discussions, and we can only continue with political discussions after we have peace, because it's important to keep fighting to defend our country. We're grateful for French President Macron's help and for the whole of French people's help. We keep communicating with President Macron, coordinating some of our action and steps. We Ukrainians see that France values freedom and protects freedom. You know what freedom is, what equality is, and what kind of brethren support is. We Ukrainians feel that and understand that. That's why we expect that France and its leaders can make it so that Russia itself seeks peace and finishes their war, stops their war against equality, against freedom, against everything that makes Europe vivid and full of life. We expect from France and from your leadership that the territorial consistency and unity of Ukraine will be recovered. We can do that together. If there are any people here who doubt that, then I can tell you, your people are convinced, the same as all of the other European nations. During the period when EU is headed by the France, we will adopt the mature decision about the Ukraine full-scale participancy and membership in the European. The timely decision, as it always happened in the French history. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear French people, tomorrow it will be a month since we started defending and fighting for our freedom and for our existence, opposing much larger numbers and powers of Russia. We need more aid and help. We need more support for freedom to win. For freedom to win, it needs to have enough weapon. We need anti-air and anti-missile defensive equipment and weapons. For the victory to win, the whole world needs to support sanctions. Every single week we need a new sanctions packet. All of the French companies, Renault, Auchan, Leroy Merlin, needs to stop sponsoring the Russian military machine. They need to stop sponsoring raping, murder, and killings by the Russian and of the Russian army. We need to remember, and you need to remember, that values are more important than profits. Continuing the international topics, Belarus suggested that 12 Ukrainian diplomats leave Belarus territory, and I need to quote this. I can't even name this person. Within a couple of years, we recorded a lot of unfriendly actions from Ukraine that wanted to ruin the relations with Belarus, they say. Up until the Ukrainian government invading and interrupting internal affairs of Belarus. I really hope that somewhere some Belarus officials watch our channel and understand that we don't care about your internal affairs, and you need to clearly understand what kind of decisions you make. The Minister of Foreign Affairs said that they allow only the ambassador and 4 of his employees, because the others were presumably trying to interrupt Belarus internal affairs. I didn't even know what to say or intervene. Well, they are looking for an excuse to say, look at how bad Ukraine is. They started with showing maps. Now they can show the photographs of Ukrainian diplomats. And yesterday they also said that under the cover of our Ukrainian embassy, there were some spies spying for Ukraine. But that's nonsense. What do you want our Ukrainian diplomats to say? They accuse them in working in the interest of Ukraine. In whose interest should Ukrainian diplomats work? I don't know how they managed to write this notice, but they should have at least read what they wrote. I don't think that Belarus officials wrote that. I think this was written in Russia, because this support of Russia and Putin, it's related to the fact that Russia was defeated in the information war on the global scale, but they strengthened their influence internally within the 3 weeks, so they're trying to do the same thing. They are preparing the grounds and excuses, basically, and that's only focused at their own residence for those Belarus people who are still in Belarus, for Belarus citizens, to provide them excuses why they passed this or that kind of decision. I'd like to still clarify the information about the survey on the support of Russian war in Ukraine by the Russian people, and a vast majority of Russian population supports their leader and what he does in Ukraine. So this data, the poll was conducted by the pro-governmental sociological company, and we need to keep and take this into account, because of course they will never say that Russians don't support that, but based on the calls captured by the defense service of security service of Ukraine, based on the videos and stories they show on their propaganda channels, we can actually see that it's more or less the same, because even the independent polls had a similar numbers, so maybe it's just in 3 weeks. Yes, probably, because the narrative suggested by the propaganda is mind-boggling. They keep trying to find more employees, offering $1,000 to $1,500 to Belarus officers for participating in the war on Ukraine. They also offer the places in the Russian universities to their kids, even though who would need that. So they are trying to make them join. It seems that even Lukashenko no longer controls the Belarus army, because the leader of the army is currently the FSB Russian agent. Another piece of information is related to Poland, because based on different media, it's been 2 days that above the building of the Russian embassy we can see kind of smoke. You can see a video recording as a proof Why do we speak about that? Because yesterday, a common citizen notified about that, published on Twitter, then he removed the video, but media saw the same, and you can see photos and videos with the smoke above. I don't know why they're probably what they're trying to do, just sitting around the fire altogether. If you remember, we had a situation like that in Ukraine. It was a psyops when they were burning down all of the documents before invasion. Maybe they are waging this psyops the same to keep Polish people tense, and to find the similarities, they started with burning documents in Ukraine, and there was smoke about the embassy of Russia in Ukraine, and now we have the same situation in Poland. So maybe Russia is trying to identify within the couple of days where they would strike, and we can see now these documents burning. Last week, Russian propaganda once again were drawing how they can capture Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Poland within a couple of days. There are lots of information and quotes in media about Poland being threatened, about attacks on citizens should Poland keep helping Ukraine. So now people read this, and based on my experience of communicating with European citizens, we Ukrainians have a kind of immunity against propaganda and informational pressure like that, and they do not have that, and they start pressurizing our partner who helps us the most. Maybe they are trying to conduct this psyops, and it works in Europe really greatly, that kind of pressure and that kind of propaganda from Solovyov and the other speaking heads of Russia and those propaganda slaves. I watched a video yesterday edited from different pro-governmental channels where the messages to Europe were collected. We can show you, Poland people, what's Lithuania, what's Latvia, let's attack them, so on and so forth. And now add the smoke about the embassy to that, and the threats were voiced on the highest levels about the nuclear weapons and about bombing Poland. So all of these things become a more and more difficult psychological pressure. Now we understand why Europeans start to panic. So we can say that Russians are basically achieving the goal with that propaganda. We also need to pay attention to how they change that. They speak less about strike on Kyiv. They start keeping silent about that because they were defeated there, and now they start speaking about Mariupol and about the regional borders for Luhansk and Donetsk regions, and about Kherson. But in Kherson, people keep protesting against Russia. They're getting beaten, but they keep protesting. Russia soldiers and police fire at them, but citizens keep protesting. And they don't understand. They can see that people get beaten, fired at, and they still keep protesting, and they do not understand how this happens. They are fired at, but they still keep resisting. How does it happen? So even those people who think of themselves as liberal and Democrats and ready to protest do not understand how the actual protest looks like. So Russia needs to modify their propaganda. They're now speaking about the internal Azov and Black Sea, but
Ось, але про Азовське море вони мріють, що це просто буде їхнє
divided because
внутрішнє озерце. так?
you
І
can't
це
capture
показує,
the
що такі
cities
перші
there.
там
But
провели
about
ці
the
другі
other sea, they
закріпити
dream
у
about
них
making
не
it
виходить,
its
якщо ми
internal
говоримо про якісь потенційні
lake.
найбільші
So
два
their
росіян
plan
тих всіх
A
резервів,
is out
то,
now,
скоріш за все, вони
and
будуть
if we're
пробувати
talking about
вибивати
the
Донецьку,
plans
Луганську
B and
області.
C,
І
probably
чергове
they'll try to
підтвердження
capture
цьому
the
є
whole of
в
Donetsk and
їхніх
Luhansk
діях.
region.
Сьогодні вони
And
обстріляли
we
ще
have
одну
some
станцію.
proof.
Це
They
станція
gunned down
Очеретине.
another
Ось,
station,
якщо подивитись на
Очеретине.
карті, дуже добре
If you
видно,
have a
що
look
це
at the
одна з тих
map,
станцій, яка
you can see that's
рухається в
one
сторону
of
нібито
the
Горлівки, та? Ось, але цей
stations
напрямок ось тут,
going to
де
Horlivka.
взагалі
This is the
немає
direction
ніякого,
here,
абсолютно
where there are
ніякого просування
no
російських військ. Ось тут Авдіївка,
success
яку
in the
просто зрівнюють
offensive
з
of
землею.
Russian
Ось,
army,
і умовно
Avdiivka,
українські бійці,
that's
якщо
being
отримують, то
destroyed to the
отримують сюди
ground,
підкріплення
and
залізницею.
Ukrainian
Ми
army is
бачимо,
more or
що
less
за добу,
here,
по факту, та зараз
supported
за добу це вже третя станція, яка
by the
важлива для
railroad.
постачання
So this is the
українських збройних сил,
third
знищується.
railroad
От, з власного
that's
досвіду скажу, ми
destroyed
ще не
within
такі
the
тупі,
last
як
couple of
ви,
days.
щоб возити все
But
залізницею.
we're not
По-перше, там
that
все
dumb
завезено, все є.
to bring
А по-друге,
everything
є
by the
інші
railroad. First of
альтернативні
all
шляхи,
of the
які
supplies
прекрасно
were already
працюють. Плюс у
provided,
нас є
and there are
головна
other
перевага перед росіянами,
ways
яку вони
to
досі не
send
зрозуміли.
supplies.
Це
Another
те,
great
що
benefit
нас
over the
підтримує
Russians
українська
that we
армія,
have is that we are
підтримують люди. Це не 14-й
supported
рік.
by
Тобто тил
local
на місцях є,
populations,
люди
not
допомагають. Ось,
2014.
а зброя нас завжди
We,
на
our
місці.
rears
Про
are
обстріли і
strong.
підтримку людей дуже важливе повідомлення від радника глави офісу президента
We have another
Михайла
important
Подоляка. Він
message
сьогодні
from
звернувся до
Mikhailo
українців і
Podolyak,
попросив
who
не
addressed
розголошувати
Ukrainians
інформацію
today
про
and asked them
логістичні
not
центри в
to
Україні.
share
Йдеться про
information
ці
about
центри,
logistics centers
особливо
in
в
Ukraine,
західній частині України, з
especially
яких
those in the
виїжджають
western
до
part of
місць, де
Ukraine,
точаться активні бої, різні
where the
вантажі.
humanitarian aid is being sent to the combat and military actions areas, because the enemy would benefit from this information. They keep threatening Poland and humanitarian aid providers. And why do they threaten Poland? Because they send humanitarian aid. You remember all of these announcements from Russia. Let's bomb the humanitarian aid convoys. So Mikhailo Podolyak really requests all of the Ukrainian citizens not to share any related information about the centers for humanitarian aid, about humanitarian aid convoys. We know that lots of information is being shared like that in social media. Please stop yourself from sharing that. It's not an attack on your freedom of speech, but do not help the enemy. Our channel monitors this kind of news. We try not to announce or share any information that could benefit the enemy. And together with Stanislav, we work till 9:25 today. At 22:10 p.m. today, we'll have the final news, and you will also see the rest information at the Unified Broadcast Marathon, the same that we do, but we also share information about the Lviv region and Western Ukraine region. I have some information that I don't really like. Coming back to the survey of Rating, sociological group, they surveyed Ukrainians on different kind of trends, and about half of Ukrainians, because of war, 44% of Ukrainians were divided with their family, especially the east of Ukraine, 54%, but not less 39% for the residents of western part, mostly young people, 18 to 35 years old. But also other age groups.
Я скажу, що я розумію людей, які виживали, але я
understand
не до кінця розумію людей, які
people
живуть в безпечних умовах. Я розумію, що
who
немає абсолютно безпечних
well,
умов,
I understand there are no safe conditions right now, but more or less, when you have more or less normal situation, stable situation, and going to a foreign country. Of course, I'm not speaking about a mother with 2 or 3 people, but when they're living with grown-up kids like 15, 16 people, and it's only my subjective opinion, why should you leave the country and worsen the situation here? But some people and some families who brought apart because they had a son, daughter, or somebody is in Mariupol. 19% of Ukrainians were forced to leave, mostly from the east part of Ukraine. But what's a positive trend? 94% of those who were forced to leave plan to go back home as soon as they can. A large percent are uncertain about housing and their buildings. 9% are sure that their buildings and houses were destroyed. 93% of Ukrainians believe in our victory in the war with Russia, and it's not only Ukrainians from the western or eastern part of Ukraine, but that's across the whole Ukrainian population. 93% believe that we will win, and they know that we will win. And about Ukrainians going back home, I'll share a story about a person who told me what's the difference between US employee and Ukrainian. He said it's simple. When a US employee gets an offer for $100 or $200 more, he will drop everything. He will move to the other part of US without thinking that he was born here, his past love was here. But for a Ukrainian, to make a Ukrainian person to leave their hometown, it should even double or triple their salaries. Ukrainians are very deeply rooted to their home nest, and they always want to go back. And some people say, I'll go back to die in Ukraine, and they live for 20 years here still after they came for this reason, and that's good. We have another story that our
Місто, яке зігрівало.
the city that used to
яке ніжило теплим промінням, віяло морським бризом,
with a gentle sun and fresh
дивувало сучасною інфраструктурою.
breeze of air with a modern contemporary infrastructure. Up until recent times, kids would laugh in the Mariupol streets, parents would walk with their families. Now everything is black with hundreds of bombs, and the streets are covered with blood of innocent kids.
Сергію боляче дивитись на кадри зруйнованого
Sергій
Маріуполя.
feels
До
pain
24
when
лютого
watching
він, як і
as
всі,
they
будував
destroyed
плани у рідному
Mariupol
місті.
videos.
Працював в приватній
Up until
фірмі,
24th
мешкав у
of
квартирі в
February,
центральній
he
частині,
worked,
хоч рано вигулював
had a
собаку
job,
і радів життю.
had
Сьогодні
an
навіть не знає,
apartment,
чи вціліла його домівка.
and was
Останніми
happy. Now
днями
he's
ночували
not
в
sure
підвалі.
whether
Коли ж
his
обстріли
house
перестали
is
вщухати,
intact or
похапцем
destroyed.
забрали речі рідних, собаку
Right
та
after the
наважились
bombings, as
виїхати.
soon as they could, they captured all of the bags, things, and left. Well, the whole of the city center, the humanitarian university, the drama theater, everything that was there. From our building, a car went out. They just took a woman, kids, saying, let's go. In a couple of hours, they went back, saying there was no humanitarian corridor. Just imagine 2,000 of cars staying in line, waiting for the opportunity to go away, risking their life because the air raids are in progress, bombing is in progress.
Ти найсильніший.
You are the
Ми віримо в
strongest.
тебе, солдате.
We believe
Пані
in
Наталія
you, our
показує
soldier.
відео своїх
Natalia
учнів,
shows
які підтримують
video of
українських воїнів
her
та вірять в
pupils,
перемогу. Сьогодні
students who
вона не з
support
ними і не знає, коли
Ukraine
ще раз
and
побачить учнів
Ukrainian
знову
army
у
believes
рідному містечку
believe
Добропілля,
in
що на
the victory.
Донеччині. Але
Today
щодня
she's
за
not
допомогою
with her,
відеозв'язку
doesn't
син
know whether
ляже
she
віру в
will
перемогу.
see
Хоча
them
в
again,
самої на очах
but the
сльози.
video connection helps her believe in victory. We stayed there up until the very last moments, but when the challenge started in our internal region, we couldn't but leave because the Donetsk region is in the circle. You know the tragic situation of Mariupol and Volnovakha. Every night when we have air raid alerts, when helicopters are above you and the kids are trembling in their beds and you cannot calm them down and you cannot help them. I keep crying, kids keep crying. Not all people can go out or leave. Not everybody can do this. From the financial perspective, when we were going away, we had another family join us 2,300 kilometers we needed to pass. Ukrainians are great nations. They will never leave anybody in trouble. They don't have any plans for the future, but just a plan after the war to rebuild the country. I can't say that they left my city because mentally and in my heart, I'm every day there. I will give a call to everybody, to every person that I know.
Український народ не лише такий, який не
Ukrainian people, Ukrainian nation does not leave their brothers, sisters, or even unknown, unfamiliar people in trouble. They do not leave in trouble any soldier or army man on the front lines. In Lviv, regional military administration requested help for the humanitarian headquarters today, and the things that they need are small bread loaves, jams, well, our administration now communicates like some other, so nuts, meat, and cigarettes. They are asking people to share and bring the announced goods from the list you can find on their websites to the headquarters. They provide the address, Kopernika 17 Kopernika Street, and they will then pack this to the front line. In the Lviv region, the fraudsters were uncovered. These were 4 Ukrainians who tried to cross the border using the fraudulent documents. During the documents inspection, the border guards identified that the documents are fraud documents. They informed the police, and the police uncovered the criminals who created and shared the fraud documents for crossing the border and sold them for $4,000 per document. That was the citizens from Volhynia region, 30 years old and 21-year-old resident of Lviv helped him. Guys, if you want to donate all of this army for the army needs, feel free free to keep selling these documents. You can also drink and drive. You will also help police like that. Police in Rivne region saw a car with the emergency lights. The police saw this car stop, offered help. They understood that something is wrong. A woman was drunk, and the car was confiscated and sent for the army needs. It was of the Vectra model of car, and now the woman can drink but can't drive. So if you'd like to help, please feel free to drink and drive and donate your car this way. The State Investigation Bureau filed a case in Zakarpattia for the guards who February 26th passed Grigori and Igor Surkis with 4 passengers in every car, and inspectors haven't investigated the cars and haven't inspected anything. The declaration of any money and private belongings, so all of this went declared, and according to Ukrainska Pravda, more than $17 million were taken from Ukraine, and their grandparents, older 18 years old, also left the country, even though it was forbidden. So the inspectors made a stupid error, and they harmed themselves. The country, what will happen with Surkis, that's a different question. We already mentioned that Lviv residents help different kind of displaced and other people. The longer the war continues, the more people in Lviv try to help. We discussed it with the representative of sports department. Even sports facilities provided their sport institutions provided their facilities, and business representatives and common people. We have a story that our journalists prepared about cheerleading school facilities.
Це Радомир, йому 5 років. Він полюбляє рахувати та разом із новими подругами бавиться іграшками. Від початку березня хлопчик живе у прихистку для тимчасових переселенців, який облаштували у залі для черлідингу. Із Харкова приїхав із батьками.
Ми побачили віддачу, щиру допомогу, без користі. Це сплоченість нашого народу, який допомагає кожному. Не дивлячись на те, на якій я мові розмовляю, на російській чи на українській. Це неймовірно щось.
Разом із сім'єю Вікторії у прихистку мешкають ще 2 родини. Одночасно імпровізований притулок може прийняти до 30 людей. І такі дні були. Дехто залишається на ніч, а хтось на декілька тижнів. Засновниця клубу Наталія Блашко розповідає, приміщення для переселенців облаштували за день спільними силами працівниць та батьків юних черлідерок.
Приносили матраци, подушки, ковдри, постільну білизну. Тобто ми її не шукали, не було такого, що ми її шукали. Нам все в один день реально принесли в великих масштабах все, що необхідне.
Тепер у прихистку є все необхідне. Місця для сну, речі побуту та гігієни, іграшки, книжки, а в роздягальні ще й одяг для дорослих та дітей, який безкоштовно може взяти кожен, хто потребує. Тут також є душі, якими у мирний час користувалися спортсмени. Приміщення у підвалі. Відповідно, відразу є і бомбосховище. Із харчуванням допомагають представники ресторанного бізнесу, але і на кухні достатньо продуктів та є мультиварка. підтримка. До речі, тут раді не лише людям, а й тваринам.
На самому початку у нас було дуже багато котиків, були сопесики. Один котик у нас досі бігає по залу, його шукають. Він є, він дається в знаки, але виловити його не можуть.
Тренерки клубу також не байдикують, приходять волонтерити.
Ми тут зустрічаємо людей, розказуємо наші правила, все показуємо, даруємо їм тепло, усмішку, якби навіть самим там важко не було, читаючи ці новини. І стараємося людям дарувати цю любов, щоб вони хоч трошки відчули, що вони в безпеці і за них є кому попіклуватися.
Самі ж переселенці також прагнуть бути корисними. Вони щоденно прибирають спільне тимчасове помешкання. Дехто волонтерить, а чоловіки після приїзду до Львова стають тут на військовий облік.
Все Україна, на все буде добре.
Софія Козаренко, Юрій Маковецький. Програма «Очі».
Повертаємось в студію ТРК «Перший
Coming back to the studio.
Від міністерства це ж формує трансформацію України.
Today I was allowed to read news about the Digital Transformation Ministry. If you received announcement about the e-support і підтримка announcement, please, if you received such announcement with a link, it's not true, it's a fraud. Never click a link like that. You can only receive a message like that from your bank. It doesn't have any links, only text information. Another piece of news, the Ministry of Digital Transformation created a map of administrative service provision centers, even in Kharkiv region. You can see that there were some issues with registries, but apart from that, everything was working.
Ви в Мінцифрі, від мене перше. Ви в Дії вже спробували в гру грати?
Спробував, так.
І як?
Скільки очок набрали?
400 з чимось.
5,5.
Не дивись на мене, я не пробувала.
Have you tried playing this game? What was introduced to Dia? How many points did you get? You have 44 centers for service provisions according to the map. But no, that's not true. We have more than 50 that should work, and even 2 in the new status. What does it mean, the new status? The centers who provide some help to displaced people, or either help to find a place to spend the night, or provide a kind of clothes or food, that kind of thing. The same as Center for Employment, where they provide legal advice. No, we only have 2 centers like that. We also have Telegram bot, chat bot, Turботник, so Carist, and lots of other kind of help. Where are these positions? One in Postomate, the other don't remember. Actually, they don't cover like the whole region, but apart from that, we have 7 humanitarian headquarters. So the help is provided at different areas. And the centers joined helping to displaced people to all of the people. Do you mean as physical facilities or as representatives? Different ways. First of all, we never stopped providing the state services, so they couldn't refocus fully or repurpose. So probably some centers worked more on the state administrative cases, so whether they worked as warehouses for humanitarian aids or whether they were working as registries, that depends. March the 8th, was it the 9th? 7th, 8th, the centers didn't work, so for 4 days, and just one of our guest shared this with us because he went there on Monday and couldn't. In Lviv? Yes, not in the whole region, just maybe in Lviv city. Do they work during the weekends, holidays, freedom? Maybe. You need to have a look at their working hours. Before that, they used to work on Saturday, and Sunday was a day off, and now different centers decide for their
Вихідні прийти
own.
зареєструватися, то очевидно, що субота мала би бути робочою.
Так, ну, тобто, крім ЦНАПів, є ще інші органи,
Yes, of course, now it's obvious that Saturday should be a working one, yes, but during the issues with the registry issues or other bodies, so in some kind of services, there was an overlap, so no issues here.
Вони привикли до ЦНАПів, всі прийшли, закрили. Я просто дивлюся, хотів сказати, Дрогобицька агломерація, це мій бзік з децентралізації, та про це ми поговоримо в програмі «Громада» зразу після війни.
Після перемоги.
Після перемоги, так. Бачу просто 4 ЦНАПи: Дрогобич, Борислав та Трускавець. І тільки Дрогобич працює дія-центр в суботу. Чи є у вас інформація, чи цього достатньо? Чи навпаки